Pretend to be my dad for 10 minutes, that's what she said. A little girl no more than 9 standing in front of me in the middle of a crowded park in downtown Chicago. Her jeans were ripped, her backpack was hanging by one strap, but her eyes were steady in a way that broke me. She wasn't trembling in her voice, but her hands were shaking like leaves in the wind. And then she added, "If you don't, I think that man's gonna take me." I froze, half a sandwich still in my hand. I wasn't the kind of man who stepped in anymore, not since the divorce, not since my son died. I'd built walls so high no one could climb them. But something about her, this girl looking at me like I was her last shot, made it impossible to stay out. So I put down the sandwich, patted the spot next to me on the bench, and said, "Sit down, pumpkin. Tell me what Mrs. Greer said about your spelling test." She didn't even blink, just slid onto the bench and pulled out a crumpled granola bar like she'd done this before. "I spelled revolution wrong," she said deadpan. I replaced the V with a B. Thought it sounded nicer. I chuckled louder than I needed to, just so the heavy-set guy by the pretzel stand would hear. He was staring too hard like a hunter sizing up prey. And when I laughed and called her pumpkin again, he scowled, turned, and walked off. The girl let out a breath like she'd been holding it since she was born. "You're good at pretending," she muttered. "You're good at surviving," I shot back. That's how I met Naomi. Just Naomi, she told me. No last name. Her mom had died the Christmas before her dad was gone before she was born, and her aunt, the only family she had left, was stuck at a free clinic fighting diabetes. Naomi spent most afternoons walking herself to the library because, as she put it, sad rich people in good shoes don't kidnap kids in broad daylight. I didn't know whether to laugh or cry at that. But when she handed me half of my own sandwich, saying it was better than school lunch and tasted expensive, something in me cracked open. For the first time in years, I didn't feel like a sad man killing time. I felt like someone who mattered. The next day, I went back to that same park with 2 sandwiches. She didn't show. The day after, same thing. Nothing. But on the 4th morning, as I unwrapped a croissant I didn't even want, I heard her voice behind me. "You wait here every morning." I turned, and there she was, same backpack, a fresh scrape on her knee, and a grin that made the city noise fade for a second. That's when everything changed. I started walking her to the library, buying her waffles on the way, listening to her stories about shelters, about kids who'd been offered candy by a man who said they reminded him of someone he used to own. The words made my stomach twist. She'd say it casually, like she was reciting multiplication tables, but I could see the truth behind her eyes, fear disguised as toughness. And then came the moment. We were sitting in that park again, when a man with greasy hair and boots full of holes walked by, slowing just enough to stare at her. I stood up. "Hey," I called. He turned, half smiling, half snarling. "What are you, her lawyer?" he spat. "I could be," I said, stepping closer. "She yours?" I didn't answer. Just let the silence hang. He chuckled low. "That little girl's got a big mouth. Big mind, too." I was just admiring ain't illegal to look. "Depends how long you look," I said, my voice like stone. "She's a child. You don't compliment kids by talking about slavery. You don't follow them around. And if I ever see you near her again, every cop in this city is going to have your face taped to their wall." The smirk on his lips faltered. For a second, I saw it fear. Then he muttered, "Whatever, man," and shuffled off. I didn't sit back down right away. My hands were still trembling when Naomi whispered, "You were good at that. Good at what I asked, pretending to be my dad." She paused. "That's the nicest thing anyone's ever done for me." I looked at her, and before I could stop myself, I said, "Maybe I should stop pretending." That was the beginning of something I never saw coming. I filed paperwork. Guardianship. Not adoption, not yet, but enough to show up for her, to enroll her in programs, to give her a chance at something better. Her aunt, proud but frail, eyed me like I was trying to steal her only family. "Don't you hurt her," she warned. "I won't," I swore. "I lost my son years ago to a drunk driver. I'm not losing her too." Naomi moved into my penthouse the next week. That place had always felt like a museum. Marble floors, glass walls, furniture you weren't supposed to touch. But suddenly there were sneakers by the door, a pink backpack by the couch, and the smell of hot sauce on scrambled eggs in the kitchen. She'd smirk and say things like, "You're serious about transferring me to Roosevelt Academy? That's the fancy place with laptops, right?" "Yes," I told her. "I won't fit in." "You will. I'll get in trouble." "You might." She narrowed her eyes at me. "You're serious as a heart attack." She grinned. "Fine. But I want the burgundy backpack with the gold zippers. It's yours." For the first time in years, I felt alive. But then the shadows came back. A man in a fake postal uniform handed me an envelope one morning at the school gate. Inside was a grainy photo of Naomi alone at recess. On the back, "You can't watch her forever." It wasn't just one creep in a park. There was a network of predators hiding behind shelters, churches, even judges. Men in suits with perfect smiles who handed kids off like they were property. And the more I dug, the uglier it got. I confronted pastors who preached kindness on Sunday and preyed on kids on Monday. I followed money trails that led to foundations claiming to mentor at-risk youth, but funneled them into the hands of men like the one who smiled at Naomi that first day. I wasn't just fighting for her anymore. I was fighting for every kid who never got waffles before school, who carried pepper spray they didn't know how to use, who thought survival was the same as childhood. It all came to a head when I stood on live television staring into a camera. "You may know me as a businessman," I said, "but today I'm speaking as a father. There are children still out there trapped in a system that protects monsters. I'm speaking for them because silence has killed too many. If I can stay quiet with all my money and privilege, what chance do the kids without any protection have?" I played a recording. A predator's voice grooming a girl half his age. 10 seconds was enough. America listened. Hashtags trended. Survivors came forward. Churches shuddered. Judges resigned. And Naomi, sitting on the couch with her knees pulled to her chest, whispered, "Did I help stop them?" "You're the reason we started," I told her. She hugged me tighter than anyone ever had and whispered into my chest, "Not all dads do this, but mine does." I should have felt relief, but I didn't, because one of the men arrested smirked at me on his way into custody and hissed, "You think this ends with me? You're chasing shadows, Sterling. You should have left it alone." That night, Naomi fell asleep, curled against my arm. I stared out at the city lights blinking like eyes hiding secrets. I whispered to myself, if anyone ever tries to hurt her again, they'll wish they hadn't been born. We built something new after that. A center painted in colors Naomi chose: bright pink, soft yellow. She called it the Light. A place where kids like her could feel safe, where monsters starved from lack of victims. She stood on a stool at the opening and told a room full of strangers. When I was scared, my dad became my voice. Now I'm not scared, so I can speak too. Kids remember, we don't forget, but we forgive because we don't want to carry your bad stuff forever. The room erupted in applause. My eyes burned, but I smiled, because this story wasn't about a billionaire saving a little girl. It was about a little girl saving me, teaching me that family isn't blood, it's presence. It's not about pretending to be someone's dad. It's about deciding to be one. And maybe that's why I'm telling you this now. Because for every Naomi, there are 100 more kids walking to the library alone, praying someone will see them. So tell me, if it were you sitting on that bench, sandwich in hand, and a child asked you to be their dad for 10 minutes, would you? Because sometimes 10 minutes is all it takes to change a life forever. What do you think? Should people like me have stepped in sooner? Or was it never our place until it became personal? Drop your thoughts below, because the world doesn't change without people willing to argue about what's right, what's wrong, and what we refuse to ignore.